This is Henry Chamberlain, and it's my pleasure to present to you Raheem Nelson. He's an artist out of New Haven, Connecticut. He specializes in pop art, portraits, all kinds of art and illustrations, specializing with the iPad. So take it away, Raheem. Tell us a little bit about yourself just to kick things off.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Henry. My name is Raheem Nelson. I'm an illustrator, digital artist, pop artist based in New Haven, Connecticut. The project that I've done recently that I'm most excited about has been the Arts for Labor project. And now it's a project I did with the International Festival of Arts and Ideas in New Haven. And what I did was I created a series of portraits of essential workers, including myself, because I'm a paraprofessional at James Hillhouse High School. That's what I do for my day job. So Arts and Ideas asked me to illustrate myself along with a few other amazing individuals.
Okay, so now we're all set up. We're going to do some iPad stuff. And this is the book really for you guys that are just starting out, or even if you've been doing iPad work for a while. I find this to be such a delight. And it's a book that rewards on third, fourth viewing. There's so much to be said about this book. It's half of it's New Haven, half of it's New York. And I love the essays, and I love the notes that you provide at the end of that give people insights into your process and to what was going on. Also, the fact that you're very generous with your tips and tricks. You talk about the 4 apps involved in putting this book together. Is there something that you'd like to say about this one, Raheem?
Sure, yeah. This project was, how do I put it, like a big breakthrough for me in terms of just bookmaking. I think this was like my second or third book that I self-published through lulu.com. And I used all the apps that I was I guess, gaining mastery over with the iPad when I was starting out. And it's really just all about my commute from New Haven to New York. And that commute was important to me because I went to art college at the School of Visual Arts, which is located in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan. And from there, I just grew to love New York, and also had a love for New Haven as well too, like a born and raised in New Haven, but just kind of seeing it differently when I'm going back and forth across state lines, so to speak, going to art college and then coming back, to New Haven to spend time with friends and family. So I just kind of continued that, like it kind of became like a tradition for me. And then this book came about because, just traveling back and forth so much, I would see all these landmarks and locations. So what I started doing was I would sit at like Grand Central Terminal, for instance, where that is, or I'd be on the train going into Harlem, and I would just take out my iPad and start creating paintings live. And then if I didn't have time, I would take a reference photo and then make a painting when I got back home or someplace stationary. But it just became like a practice that I really enjoyed. And then I decided to create a book, which was inspired by a mentor of mine who wrote an essay in that book for me. His name is George Colombo, and he was one of the first essays that I got, and one of the main inspirations behind the book. George did a lot of covers for The New Yorker, and he was using his iPhone to make paintings, and he's from New York. And so I would look at his work, and I got to meet him and have conversations with him. And then he gave me a lot of guidance on creating this book. And the inception for it came by like before I even met him, but in meeting him, I was able to like kind of breathe new life into this book, having conversations with a native New Yorker, and then kind of bringing my energy from New Haven and just kind of like mixing the two. But it's just a book I'm super proud of, and I think the work still holds up too. And a lot of these paintings have actually become NFTs, so they've taken on a new life of their own.
Oh my goodness, this is a perfect NFT right here.
It's been pretty popular so far. Like, I love that painting.
Yeah, I know George Colombo, not as well as you do, but I asked for his suggestions and advice, and he just said, keep plugging away. And I love his work. It's a very distinctive thing that I don't know. I'm sure he still does it, but there was a time I think when he was just doing it a lot, where he would spot somebody and then he would he'd be basically documenting all the clothes on that person, all the fashion statement they were making. It was incredibly distinctive work and just a lot of fun.
Yeah. hmm Love his stuff.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive style. And then, well, just I also wanted to mention this an example of your illustration work. I guess this would be considered
Thanks.
a children's book, Dream Chronicles.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that how that came about was an interesting story. My friend Mia Robinson was a go-between between me and the client that I work with on that book. Her name is Kamika Glenn, and she is based in the DC metro area.
Mm.
And she came to me with this idea about a children's book about a young girl that has like, I think the way it went was like she has like a okay relationship with her mother. Like her mother is like very busy, businesswoman, things like that. And so the daughter has a dream and connects with the mother in the dream, and her mom is showing her like this museum of dreams about like civil rights activists and people that are just influential, like Steve Jobs with Apple, just to inspire her to kind of just go after her dreams and what she wants to be when she grows up. So she has like all these examples of people that, are essentially making history. And she's going through this museum and then also connecting with her mother too. So by the time she wakes up, and I'm not gonna give away too much of the story,
Yeah.
but by the time she wakes up, she has a whole new outlook on life. So just illustrating somebody's story was pretty great. Like I think that was like the first children's book that I'd done in collaboration with an author. Whereas the other books I've created have just been like I came up with a story and I illustrated it. So there's a certain type of partnership that's required in terms of making that kind of book successful. And I really enjoyed working with Kamika a lot. Like she had a lot of brilliant ideas and kind of let me have enough space and freedom to do my own thing too. So it was like a great partnership.
Yeah, it's a very original idea. And maybe this would be a good way to jump into the iPad stuff. I got some of your art. Like I love this piece here. It's I can see this in a diner easily, and this is more
Thanks.
of a fun poppy piece.
hmm
Maybe you could give us a behind the scenes on one of these or something else, whatever you like.
Sure, sure. So I can give you like a verbal arts notes, like the book, so to speak.
Yeah,
So for the pancakes, I think that comes from like my love of diners,
yeah.
American diners. And, I just love, I mean, I try not to eat them so much, but, I love sweets and I love pancakes and waffles. And that kind of like just translates into, some of my favorite aspects of my work. And I think that's why my work is relatable to, my collectors, because there's a certain aspect that, it's like, you can just relate to it. Like most people will have had pancakes or waffles in their lives. And, it kind of relates back to nostalgia and having memories, associated to food. So when I'm creating that art, I'm kind of drawing on my own memories and just putting that into the work. It has like a pop feel to it. And it's something you can take and hang in your home, and it's accessible and I'd say collector friendly. So that's the story behind the pancakes. And then the story behind the fruit, the citrus one, that's a piece that I just put together as a still life, and I didn't really think too much of it. But when I minted it as minted means created as that NFT, it ends up being like my best seller. Like I've sold
Mm.
out most of the stock that I have. So I have, I think I sold 14 so far, and I still have a few left to go. But it ended up being my best seller, and I think I sold the first one when it was like maybe like December or January. I think my buyer must have been thinking about like the spring or summer because it evokes like a warm feeling. And I think that's what I was thinking of when I was creating it, just being someplace warm and tropical and just using these vibrant colors. So I noticed like my pieces that do the best, especially in terms of the food, it's the pieces that tend to be the most vibrant and evoke the most feeling. So it's a piece that I just did, because I wanted to do a study of some fruit, and ended up being like, super popular.
Well, well deserved. Well deserved.
Thanks.
Well, maybe what we can end up doing is, if it works out, is, I met you through the Art Alliance of Stratford, Connecticut, and so you just sort of put our feet to the fire, just threw us in, and we followed you as best we could as students.
You did great. Yeah.
I tried. Maybe you could give a little taste of that, however you see fit.
Sure. Yeah. If you'd like to make me the host, I can do a screen share. Broadcast. Okay. So I am going to open up Procreate here. And can you see what's on my screen?
Yeah.
You can. Great. Okay. So let me go through something. I can do a demo. So this is Procreate. They just start you off with the basic screen. Your colors are here. And I'm going to start with a sketch, and then I'm going to transition into a painting. One of the exercises I like to do with my students is a fruit study. So I'm going to pick like a graphite color here, like a gray. And then for your actual painting drawing tools, it's this icon, this brush. And then so it has recent, Sargent's Oils, which is a custom brush set I downloaded, which is great. You can download custom brushes. And then the sketching tool. So I usually start in here, and I go to the 6B pencil because that's my point of reference from physical tool. I'll just leave it up. So 6B pencil and the sketching tools and the brush library, they call it. And so once I grab that, I tap anywhere on the screen with my pencil tool, stylus, or my finger, and then that makes everything go away. And then last thing before I get started with the sketch, you have layers. It's these two boxes here, layer one. And for the uninformed, people that might not know about layers, I consider layers like pieces of tracing paper. So I've got layer one and I've had layer two. I can stack them, and everything is see-through. I'm going to start on layer one. I'm going to name this sketch so I know what's what. And then from there, I'm just going to do a basic shape of an apple. And my sketches tend to be very messy and very loose, especially if I'm doing a painting over it. And I'm just going to imagine that there's an apple in front of me, like I was doing a still life. So the stem, indentation, and the sketch can be very loose because I'm just going to paint over this anyway. So that's layer one. Layer two, I'm going to call this paint. So if I want to rename it, I tap on it once and it's highlighted blue. I hit rename and I can call it paint. From there, I'm going to switch brushes. I'm in sketching tools. Now I want to be on painting, and I am going to use oil paint, which is down here near stucco. And then I'm going to pick a shade of red. And for your colors, you can use the color wheel. You can use this color block if you want, like light and dark. Value, you can put in like Pantones, for instance, and it kind of shifts everything for the color sliders. And then palettes. So these are all saved. I usually prefer to use palettes or the disc. So for this exercise, I'm going to use, I'll use the disc of the palettes. So I'm going to start with a darker color. And what I'm going to consider, let's consider the light source is going to be coming from here. And then the shadows are going to be coming from here. So dark colors are going to be on the right-hand side. So my sliders are here to make the size bigger. I'm going to stick to 100% opacity as well. And then I'm just going to start rendering the shadows that are going to be on the right. And then I'm going to use lighter colors when I get towards the left side of the apple. I'm going to go back to disk and make this smaller. And I might even put in a few shades of green too, just to give the apple some life and just some density too. Just going to keep it really loose. I'm going to add some shadows for indentation. And if I want to select my color, I'm just going to push my finger down, and then I can kind of like pick up the color that I had from before. So now I'm going to make it a little lighter since it's in the middle. A little darker. And then I'm going to add a few highlights here. So they'll be pretty light. And as I paint this, I'm just imagining a juicy red apple in my physical space, even though I don't actually have one, and just what it would look like. And that knowledge comes from years of doing still lifes, which is a great activity. Like I recommend it to all artists.
Yeah.
Just a good way to, not only for illustration purposes, but just hand-eye coordination. Still lifes are just amazing. Highlight, and then I'm going to add a shade of green, and I'm going to make this see-through, so I'm going to bring my opacity down. Bring it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of green on the edge there. And then I'm going to illustrate the stem. Get my opacity. And I'm still on the correct layer, which is good. And a little shadow on the stem there. And if I like the rendering of the apple, I can transition into doing the background. And if I want to create a background layer that's in between paint and sketch, I hit the cross that's next to layers. So layers, the layers title. And then if you go right, you'll see the cross, tap that, and then I'm going to rename that background. Got that. And I'm just going to do something neutral since I want my apple to be the focal point. So I'm going to do this a few different shades of gray. And I'll do a little shadow on the apple. And I'll create another layer behind background so I don't interfere with what I have already. And let's see, what do I want to do for colors? I'll do like a pale gray that has a hint of green in it. That way everything balances out. And if I want to blend the apple, the colors in the apple, this tool here, this finger is the blender tool. And I painted in oils, but if I want to blend in a different tool, I could do that because you have access to the same brush library for painting and blending, which is great. So I'm going to use Salamanca, which is one of my favorites. I love to paint and I love to blend with this. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. And to zoom in, it's 2 fingers, you expand, and that zooms in. And if you pinch, you can make it smaller. So for blending, I like to keep my opacity either 50% or lower. And then from there, I can just lightly blend in. Let me make sure I'm on my paint layer. Yep, I am now. Salamanca, I like to use short brush strokes to blend. I don't want to, I would call it like sandblast, like make everything look uniform the same. And I don't want to smooth it out too much. I want everything to have like a nice painterly texture, but you know, kind of blended down. And that's typically the way I paint everything. I like to have a little bit of brush strokes in my painting. So you can see there's a human hand behind it. As it is digital paint, it's possible to make something look, you know, artificial and manufactured.
Yeah.
So considering my background as a oil painter and an illustrator and a cartoonist, I like to kind of take all of those backgrounds and put them into whatever I'm working on. So I'm just going to keep building it up, and I vary my brush strokes. They're either short like that or a little circular. So by the end of it, it looks like I'm using a paintbrush, which is one of the beautiful things about this program. That you can pretty much paint how you want to paint, and you have all the tools to do so. And for some reason, if you want more, you can download different brushes and make your own. So tons of options with this program.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, the blender is really great.
Well, do you still use the other apps, Art Rage and Sketchbook, or are you sticking just to iPad these days? I mean, to Procreate, rather.
For the most part, it's Procreate. I do enjoy Art Rage as well. I use Art Rage for different either tutorials, or if I want to just create like an oil painting experience, you know, I tend to stick to Art Rage. The other ones, I used to use one called Brushes that got discontinued. And for what it was amazing, but they just no longer had developer support. So, you know, I stopped using that one. And Sketchbook is still a cool app, but after a while, when Procreate kept improving, and Procreate's definitely my favorite, I kind of let Sketchbook go because I didn't really like the UI that much. It seemed like a lot of extra steps just to get to painting. Whereas if I'm going to be creating something, I just kind of want the UI to take a backseat so I can just get to creating. And yeah, so for the most part, it's just Procreate and Art Rage.
Yeah, that's the incredible appeal of Procreate. It's so accessible, and yet there's still more you can learn the deeper you go.
Definitely. So if I wanted to play this back, there are options to do that, which is great. If you tap the wrench that's here in your gallery, you have actions, you hit video, then you can hit time lapse replay. And it'll replay all your brush strokes, all your lines, and you can export this as a different video file types and everything. I used to do this kind of thing for clients where they would want me to draw something, and then they would have the time-lapse video to go along with it too. So this is great for clients, it's great for educational purposes, and you're just able to, you know, basically have a work of art that you can talk about and, you know, export as its own video file too, which is great.
Oh yeah. And you just think of the people who are out there who they just don't have the time to even be up on anything about Procreate to see that must
Right.
totally wow them.
Yeah, it never fails. Like it's usually the thing that I tell my students towards the end of the class. It's like, oh, well, you all just made your own videos. And they're like, oh, how did we do that? And then I'll have them replay their videos back. that they didn't even know they were making in the background. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And not to put you on the spot, but I like the little clothes illustrations you've got going there, and the panda.
Sure, I can show those too. Yeah, I love talking about the different things I'm working on. So I have been getting back into doing fashion illustrations. I love clothes. I love to dress well, whether it's suits or streetwear. And I am creating different illustrations to have for my portfolio, to take on a variety of clients. And this piece is a piece I actually own. I try to illustrate the clothes that I have, not so much clothes I would want to have,
Yeah.
just to reflect my wardrobe. This is a bomber jacket from the Thai bar. And this is like an essential piece in my wardrobe. I can dress it up and dress it down. If I want to have a dress shirt under this and a tie, I can. If I want to have a t-shirt or a polo or a turtleneck, just a ton of different options. So it becomes like I'm creating a fashion illustration, but there's also like an educational piece to it as well, because I love to have that kind of component to my work where it's like, oh, okay, I want to have a bomber jacket in my wardrobe. I could get this from the Thai bar or what have you, different brands like that. So I put this together, and it's pretty simple. I can play the time-lapse video as well.
Oh, cool.
So I start with I'll slow it down a little bit. I start with the sketch, and the color is blue to kind of go back to my cartooning background. And what they would do in comic books, they would use like a blue pencil so you wouldn't see all the mark making when you're going to print something. And then from there, I'm inking it and then adding the color after that. And I stick to flat colors for these because I just want to have it look like your classic, either comic book illustration or fashion illustration. And I think one color, gets the job done. And then from there, I have my layer. I have layers. I merged these all down because I guess I didn't need them after that. So that's the bomber. And then I also have this one too, which is a different combo. And the lines that I have over it, they correspond to the drawing guide that I have, which is pretty cool. It kind of keeps things in perspective, so to speak, using the grid method. And if I want to turn it off for presentation purposes, I can do that. And this is a look for the spring, the summer, cotton blazer, also from the Thai bar, and then the polo that is underneath it. So this is the kind of look that you can have in a smart casual environment, and you can also present it in a way where you can do business but also have fun at the same time. So those tend to be like the pieces that I gravitate towards most when it comes to illustrating, just to give guys options when it comes to dressing well, because I've also been taking on clients in terms of like consultation, and I'm working with this one guy now, and he wants to know how to dress well. So me creating illustrations like this, I can email him so he can see examples of things he could wear for different events and things like that.
Oh, awesome.
So another one, this one's like one of the more formal ones of the bunch. Definitely wear this to work a lot. Just a 3-piece gray suit, charcoal suit, black tie, white shirt, super formal. Gets the job done. And then a similar one, a little slightly casual because it's blue, and then light blue shirt, and then the striped tie. So I definitely love my formal wear, and we'll be illustrating more things like this soon.
Well, how exciting.
Thanks.
Well, that's great. I don't know how I could possibly top that. That's like a perfect place to end it. I kind of want to linger on just a little bit more, make sure we don't miss anything that you might want to add. And like I said, I was going to just show a little bit of maybe something of what I've been doing. I'm not sure what to show you because now I'm getting self-conscious. I can't top what you got.
Oh, no worries. I'm not trying to show off too much. Let me stop this.
I've had this iPad now for a good chunk of time, so I've managed to clutter it up with a bunch of stuff. My goodness, what could I show you? Well, here's just a random page. This is from my graphic novel, and I won't go into any big details about it, but just to show folks, once you've you're discovered Procreate, it's hard to resist, and you get really get into it so much, and I love it. Of course, there's times that I go into Photoshop for certain things, and then I come back to Procreate. So you use it as you see fit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one. So you can just have a ball. I feel like I've just touched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to discover with this program. And you are just a leader in an iPad instruction. I just
thank you.
Admire what you're doing.
Thanks. I love teaching stuff. I really do.
Do you see yourself getting? I guess that's a tough question to ask because you have a long career ahead of you. But I imagine at some point you're going to go back and maybe tackle a long form work in comics. That's probably something that's on the horizon somewhere. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it would have to be the right story. I have a few stories in my head that I might want to get back to. Like this was a story I had for a long time. In like college, I had this story of it was like high fantasy, like think Lord of the Rings, about a knight that kind of lost his honor and how he finds his way back to that. That ended up being like a lot of fun to do. I did a few iterations of that. The only issue that I kept running into was just like doing all the historical research and kind of taking what I wanted from it and then creating my own lore. Like I ended up doing like a ton of writing for it, where I was looking through the Crusades and what happened during the Crusades and what I wanted to take from that, and just castles and knights and depicting things in a way where like it made sense for the story, but also like kind of honored the historical part of it as well. So I think like if I had a team of people, I would probably pursue something like that again, just because like I was playing like the writer and the artist, so I would have to like research things, do the lore, and then do the illustrations from it. So maybe something like that. And I'm also really into doing political cartoons, so that will definitely continue. And then just seeing where it goes from there. Like I'm always interested into doing cartooning. It's just making the time for the long form stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to continue to do instruction work.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I absolutely love instruction. It's like one of the highlights of my career.
You're doing that on the high school level right now. Am I correct? Or
high school, and then also doing elementary and middle.
And then you've got the adult learning when you can fit it into your busy schedule, huh?
Yeah, I always manage to make it fit.
Well, I just am so excited about your career, and I highly recommend this book among other books you've got available on your website, raheemnelson.com.
Yeah, and that one you held up, it has a sequel too.
Oh, does it now?
It does.
Well, more power to you, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.